All right. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce Sue Vickery to the rest of you. She has put together this fabulous panel that is going to be absolutely wonderful. So, for the next 2 hours, you are in for a treat. Sue Vickery is a Washburn alum and a three-time Telly Award winning filmmaker, member of the Alliance of Women Directors, and past judge of both regional and national Emmys. Vickery has directed a variety of films specializing in documentaries. And with that, Sue, I'm going to give it to you.
Thank you, Matt. Hi, everybody. Hi, ladies. I see most of you are muted. That's fine. I'm going to start by let me introduce myself first. I am a graduate of Washburn University and proud of it. Back in the 70s. So I'm not sure they had a media program at the time, but I married my college sweetheart in Topeka, and our girls were born in Topeka. So we have a lot of pride in that community, and particularly Washburn. So it was an honor to be asked to do this today. We tried to do it last year, but because of COVID, we're doing it this year. So I'm going to start by introducing each one of you individually. And once I do, then feel free to unmute and say a few things before we get started with our questions. So everybody looks lovely. Looks like some of us are outside. I can't tell. You are outside. Good for you. That's very brave. And I'm in the universe, as you can see. So, all right. I'm going to start with Cara. Cara Myers is someone that I've worked with. She's an editor. She and I've worked together on a couple of things. She's an Emmy Award-winning editor and a director. And she began her career as a dancer. So she can talk to us about that a little bit. Cara, let's see. She works with a variety of advertising agencies, video production houses, filmmakers. And I think she and I first got acquainted through Kansas City Women in Film many years ago. I think that's how we first met. And Cara, please, I'm welcoming you. Please say a few things to the group.
Awesome. Can everybody hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Affirmative. Okay, good. It's an honor to be here with such talented ladies. I feel the feminine force that we are creating. Thank you, Sue, for heading this up. So Sue mentioned that I started my creative career as a dancer at 5 years old. Everybody, I wasn't any good, I'm sure, but really my passion with film started with my passion for music. And I became a dancer because music filled me up with so much just energy and inspiration that I had to move. And that's how dance came about. And I discovered film because I couldn't dance anymore because, our bodies are mortal, unfortunately. And when I was kind of at the end of high school, when a lot of us are pursuing some kind of, athletic, thing, or like a dance thing or whatever, chess, I don't know. My ankles were hurting me, and it was a beautiful crossroads because I didn't really know if I wanted to be a dancer professionally either. And so anyway, it became really clear that I needed to not be a dancer professionally. And it's so true, the parable that what we think is bad initially is not always bad. Because I then discovered film and started a love affair with film. And I'm happy to share anything I can about that. And yes, Sue and I have worked together. I have such fond memories of working with Sue. And it's lovely to be a part of this. And I will pass it back to Sue.
Thank you. You look lovely, by the way.
You as well. You look, the universe background suits you.
It's good for me, isn't it? Yeah. Next, I'd like to introduce Erin Zimmerman. And she is the past president of Kansas City Women in Film and TV, which I think has a new name now. You can tell us about that. She holds a BA in Communication Studies and Leadership with an emphasis in film and new media from, is that USC? Oh, that's San Diego. That's right. San Diego for you. Yay, San Diego. So she has been part of the Kansas City Women in Film and TV for 6 years and 3 years as president. Welcome, Erin. You are also a twin, I understand, from what I've seen. And please introduce yourself quickly as well.
All right, I am a twin. Her name is Meredith, and she does music stuff, so it works really well. I really got into film in college. I wanted to do an independent study, and so I talked to one of my professors and said, can I make a film? I've never done it before. Can I just do it? And they said yes. So that's where it started. I just on the fly came up with all of it, and it was just so much fun. And so I've worked for a movie theater in the marketing department. I have been organizing through KC-WIFT, which is now Women in Film and Media Kansas City, to be a little, inclusive of all of the media jobs and opportunities that are happening, and to show people, if you don't see yourself as a filmmaker, it doesn't mean you can't join us. So that was a big reveal here this last March. But I've been doing a lot of organizing with them, and then alongside the Kansas City Film Commissioner, and just I've been doing a lot of organizing of people. And so I am finally in this spot now where I retired from the nonprofit, still an active member, as active as you can be during COVID. And I am now getting more back into the actual filmmaking side of things. I own my own company called Easy Visibility, where I help small business owners with their visibility strategy, which includes video and podcast production. And I love it so much. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you very much. And I know you and I have been involved in a greater mission around the United States for a film school for women. We have been on some meetup calls on that. All right, Jill, you're up next. And I would love for you to begin by pronouncing your last name.
Not an easy one. It's Gavargazian.
Very good. What ethnic background is that?
It's Assyrian.
Okay.
And so my dad actually immigrated here from Iran, and somehow his name got longer in the process. Normally it's, shortened and simplified, and it got even longer somehow.
Wow. Well, thank you for doing that. And I'm so fascinated by your story. I've been wanting to come and get my hair done from you, first of all. And just, the success that you've had recently with a stylist. It'll be really fun to talk about that. Jill is a director, a producer, a writer, and a hairstylist from Kansas City. And she is decided to bring independent genre films to her hometown by creating a monthly showcase called Slaughter Movie House. And that genre is very, very popular across the United States. Not one I've ever worked in, but I know those that do have so much success, and you're having a lot of success with the stylist right now with all the film festivals you're going around the country with. Were you recently in Florida, did I see?
Yeah, we just played the Florida Film Festival in Orlando.
Mm-hmm. And you've got another one coming up in Texas or Arizona, maybe.
We're screening in Austin on May 22nd.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
As part of the Other Worlds Film Festival, which is exciting to finally do some in person after lots of virtual screenings over the fall.
That's true. Well, welcome. And it's a privilege to have you. And I'd like you to say a few lovely words about yourself before we get started.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here. I remember I was trying to set it up for last year, and then the world came crumbling down suddenly. I have been directing and producing short films for about 7 years, and I just released my first feature film that I co-wrote, directed, and produced. On March 1st, it started streaming, and in June it starts, it's on VOD and Blu-ray. It's called The Stylist, and I've mostly worked in horror and thriller, but I am interested in much more than that as a filmmaker. And I kind of, growing up, I was always into creative stuff. I danced and I played music, and then got into photography. And I messed around with my dad's camcorder as a kid trying to just making stuff with friends, but it never dawned on me that filmmaking was something that like a regular person could do until I attended actually a horror convention where I saw some independently made films, met the people who made them. And that's what inspired me to start the screening series that I did. And then I had to keep finding more films and filmmakers. And through that, I just get more inspired. Like, I'm going to try to make a film. All these people made films. It's just until I feel like I saw a film and then saw the person that did it and realized that they're a real person. It's like, that's when it dawned on me, like, this is something people can do. Like I never realized that before then, I honestly think.
It's quite an endeavor. We'll talk about that more at length here in a little bit, because a feature is a feature. It's different than a short, isn't it? It's a whole new learning curve.
Yeah. Definitely.
Thank you for being here, Jill.
Thank you.
And I do want to come and have my hair done with you sometime for a new look.
I would love to do it.
That'd be fun. Marlo, how exciting to have Marlo here. And I actually did some research to find you. Marlo has a degree in cinematic arts from the University of Southern California, very prestigious school. She is the founding director of the Free State Festival, a co-founder of the female filmmaking collective Women of Lawrence Film, which is acronym WOLF, and the new media director of the Lawrence Arts Center. Marlo is a member of the Lawrence Cultural Arts Commission and the Film Festival Alliance. And Marlo, the wishing bench is what I want to talk with you about, because as you know, once I watch that, I'm like, I need a wishing bench here in Mountain City. So I've got people already working on it, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but welcome, and please say a few things about yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. Honored to be here with this wonderful group of women. I know a couple of you, but just hearing the bios and getting all that wonderful details, really interesting. So I'm looking forward to the conversation. I grew up in upstate New York, and I went to film school in California, and I loved making films ever since. And I love being here in Lawrence, Kansas. And along with Misty, who's here today, we formed Women of Lawrence Film to help other women kind of mentor them and bring up the next generation of female filmmakers. And so excited to see what happens in the future, and really excited about opportunities and way that women can network together and we can all help one another to get more female stories on screen.
You're doing a magnificent job, woman. And first of all, where are you from in upstate New York?
Syracuse. So way
Syracuse.
up north, basically Canada.
Right. My children live in Plattsburgh,
Right.
just south of Montreal, and we are headed there next month. That's where my grandson is. So
Fantastic.
thank you very much for being here, and I look forward to hearing more in a little bit about specifically the wishing bench. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then last but certainly not least is Misty Bolin. And hi, Misty. How are you? You are smiling so nicely the whole time. I love that. Misty, before pivoting to writing and directing, she worked as a production designer, most notably collaborating with the Academy Award winner Kevin Wilmot with his successes that he's had there. And her first short film as a writer-director toured the festival circuit, winning multiple Best of Fest awards along the way. And we'll talk a little bit about Redbird when we get into some of the questions. And in addition to that, the Square Root. Misty is also married to a pretty well-known director and cinematographer in Kansas City as well. So welcome, Misty. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy and excited to be here with everyone today. I grew up spent most of my childhood in central Pennsylvania, and then I moved to Lawrence, Kansas for film school, graduated there, and found my way into production design. And that was I loved it, and it was kind of my day job. So I did that while making short films. And now I'm concentrating on writing and directing.
Nice. And working with Kevin was probably a real plus, I would imagine.
Oh, it was wonderful. It was so wonderful working with him. Yes.
I bet. Yes, that's wonderful. Well, welcome. Thank you very much, ladies. And I'm going to start off with Cara. which I promised that I would do, because as an editor, I thought it would really be valuable for all of us to hear a little bit about, we start on our visions and our films, and we, get our crew and cast together. But the post-production, as we all know, for me, is where the magic is. Not that it's not magical the whole way, but post-production is where sort of the shape and form comes together. And to me, it's like a jigsaw puzzle, putting all the pieces together, and there's a lot of tech stuff. But Cara, who has been editing for, gosh, you can tell us how long, Cara. I can't remember how long you've been editing, but talk a little bit about someone that has a film idea and visiting initially with the editor or post-production before they get started, and how valuable that is for pre-production and production and all the pieces that it takes to get us to giving you our footage and stuff to make the film. So talk a little bit about logistically what would be beneficial for any of us to know.
Okay, awesome. I will do that. In answer to your question, I've been editing for 22 years, 16 of those professionally. So enough to know a little. Let's see. And yet I still very much consider myself a student of this craft. It's always teaching me. Every single project, I learn something, and I learn from the people I'm with. So that's a great question. And it's a lovely question to be asked, because often as the editor, I have a lot of things land on my figurative table, and it's too late. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's almost like the question that you're asking is actually a question of, why didn't I go see the therapist before I decide to date the guy? You know what I mean? Versus after it ends, So, okay, so things that could be helpful. And sort of my caveat to saying all of this is that I'm not someone who edits in my mind. I really react to what I see and what's in front of me in the moment. However, that being said, I think conversations, like especially technical conversations between an editor and director of photography, can be really beneficial in terms of understanding, what format are we shooting on? What cameras are we shooting on? Are we at like HD? Are we doing 4K? Are we doing 6 or 8K? There are things like on my end that I need to prepare to accommodate and manage expectations on a process that, may include a great deal of footage, or maybe not a great deal of footage, but a great deal of file size. And then understanding, what kind of picture profile I'll be receiving. And that isn't related to the way that the color is processed by the camera, stuff like that. So being ready in a tech way. And then, I can really get a feel for a film, and whether that's like a narrative or if that's, a corporate thing or whatever. As an editor, I can really get a feel just by reading the script. And I can often actually see places in the script where I have concerns, where I'm thinking, I kind of wonder what would happen if we did this, you know what I mean? Like from the get-go, or, like often, like I can read a script for a short film. Let's just talk about those because they're bite-sized, for this conversation. And I can kind of get the energy, like the feel of how it's going to end. And I can tell how satisfying it's going to be or not, or what kind of ending it's going to be. And if I'm asked, I love to offer, this is how I feel like this ending is this the feeling that you want? And so I guess it's a matter of what I can bring to the table is having put enough stories together in my career so far. I can imagine the way that it's going to feel, and I can offer some feedback, sort of a mirroring on that before it's ever shot. So that can be, not that I know everything, or that an editor's opinion is everything. It's a collaboration. But I just think, another analogy, it's like, you're going to buy that used car, take it to the mechanic, take it to your favorite mechanic first, so they can look it over and be like, this muffler is going to bust out in like 2 weeks. Like, I feel like I can say some stuff like that. So anyway, is that helpful, Sue? I could talk about this all day.
I know you could. And as we talk a little bit, coming up with some of the filmmakers about, you have a vision or you have an idea, and it develops differently for all of us. My first film, when I made it, I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to turn the camera on, and it was really, learning on the fly. So at the end, I just took all my footage to an editor and said, here, good luck, and
So
and
much
you
fun
learn.
for the editor.
You learn. She did a great job, but you learn over the experience that it helps much more to start at the end. Who's my audience, who what's the touch and feel of it, and things like that. And that's why I've learned, and working with you, Cara, especially, is how do I need to be prepared to offer you the best possible outcome for the film, because you're the one that takes all the elements and puts it together and spins out the final look for it. So I'm going to ask the ladies as we go through some of the questions here that I have created. Talk to me a little bit about, let's start with Marlo in Lawrence there, sitting outside so nicely on a beautiful day. Talk to me a little bit about, because all of us have created community for women filmmakers, but sometimes we have a passion, a story that we want to tell. And it's one thing to have an idea, and then it's another thing to get it on the screen. So there's just lots of decisions and contrast to go through. Talk to me a little bit about your film that I'm so enamored by, and how it went from an idea to actually a finished product. Maybe some of the steps and logistics to make that happen.
Yeah, that film in particular, The Wishing Bench, was really interesting because it was a public art project. So it was the first time that I'd conceived a film as a vehicle for neighborhood connection and public art in a way that it's not just a filmmaker telling a contained story, but it's integrating your community in the thought process behind the film, the decision to create the film, and the exhibition of it. So that was really unique in that Lawrence had a public art grant program. So I applied under that auspices. And the Wishing Bench itself, anyone who's not familiar with Lawrence, it's this wonderful public art kind of homegrown bench in the middle of East Lawrence where people come and they add to it with their own art, and sometimes people take away from it. And it's really beautiful and representative of the community that it is a part of. So I knew that I really wanted to represent the neighborhood when I was applying for this grant. And so we did story circles as I was writing the screenplay, like hearing some of the neighborhood stories and finding out what the Wishing Bench meant to everybody in the community, not just myself, and then created that project from those inspirations. And I really loved that experience. And I think it would be hard to write in a vacuum again, because I really enjoyed not just getting my own thoughts out there on the screen, but also embodying some neighborhood history and some of the thematic ideas that that location inspired in other people. So I'm passionate about finding other avenues for public art and film to connect, because it was really fulfilling and a wonderful emotional experience for me as an artist to have that kind of broader connection to the work and the specificity of a location with that particular project. So it was a wonderful experience, and I'm kind of passionate about finding other nonprofit grant opportunities to create public art films in the future.
What was your timeline on, I have an idea, to actually finishing post-production on it? What was the months involved? Or
it took a year from start to finish on that film.
okay.
A little bit prior to that, in terms of me writing the grant application. It was a short film, so 12 minutes long. A lot of that was like the research and the story circles to get that screenplay off the ground, and then shooting it. Misty was one of my fabulous producers on the film. We shot it in 2 days, so it was really a fast production. It has a play-like quality to it. It's very dialogue driven, so it takes place right at that bench, and it's two characters who meet one another for the first time at that location. So it's very simple to accomplish, and I loved that. Like, it kind of made me opened my eyes to other ways that theater and film could be integrated. I've had the best time during quarantine watching National Theater at Home, which is a wonderful live streaming platform where you can see filmed broadcasts of theater productions. And I found that really inspirational. So I took a little bit of that sensibility to that film, so that, you know, the editing was super simple too, because you're talking about two people and locations. We did some surreal things where there'd be some kind of, you know, I don't want to say time travel, but like a travel back through memories. So that was kind of fun to edit. And then, you know, getting it off the ground. The interesting thing was we premiered it during COVID. So it was October. And we did an outdoor screening kind of close by that wishing bench, and we showed it 3 times and had 30 people at a time come in, socially distant in their pods. And it was really important to have that, you know, in-person experience. And then I also did virtual screening for that film. And that was really illuminating too, because as a filmmaker, the biggest festival that I'd been to with my own film was AFI in LA with a group of 300 audience members. And I thought that was like the biggest deal. But putting it out virtually, it had 3,000 people that viewed the film from start to finish. As an artist, I'm like, wow, that really has an opportunity to get your product out in a mass media way that when I'm thinking local and specific things, you don't always have that same correlation. So I'm kind of interested in thinking of that with the Free State Festival. What are the options that we could do to get things out to as many people as possible? And then as a filmmaker and artist too, see if there's some creative ways to, especially short films, that I think like we don't have to be as protective of, you know, like those things can have a life that's not monetary and can be communicated as an artist virtually. I think that's kind of exciting.
I love your wind chime, by the way.
A little breezy out here.
Yeah. Your film was very touching, and I watched it more than once, and it made me cry. So how about that?
That's really meaningful. And it, you know, it has emotional response to me as well. It's, for those who don't know, it deals with dementia. So my grandfather passed away of dementia a while ago. And so I tried to kind of capture that sentiment and feeling of what it's like to about somebody that is experiencing that and do it in an empathetic way. So I appreciate that, Sue.
Yeah, my mom just died last month of dementia. So there. All right, Jill. I cannot wait to hear about your experience with the stylist. You have an amazing sort of correlation between what you do and now a feature horror film that's doing great guns. Talk to me about where that idea woke you up in the middle of the night sometime or whatever, and the process to go from I want to make a feature and then the logistics of doing it, which is no small task. Take us through that a little bit.
Yeah, it's I've been a professional hairstylist for over 15 years now, and also been a fan of horror films since I was a little kid. And probably like 7 years ago or something, it just dawned on me, like, how is there not already a slasher movie that, you know, is featuring a hairstylist as the killer? And that came to me because it's kind of this era, the early 90s, where there were lots of really silly like workplace slashers, like Dr. Giggles or The Dentist and The Landlady and all these silly like profession driven horror movies. So I was like, how does that not already exist, that type of genre? And just started to go from there, because I've, you know, a lot of like indie filmmaking, you know, theories like, what do I have access to, what like locations, things, knowledge that is unique to me that can, you know, up the value of whatever you're making, which I learned early on that like location is right for a location that you have access to that's cool. So it kind of started there with like I work in salons. I know so many hairstylists. I've never seen this world portrayed in a movie in any way, even in a drama, really, not like a movie about a hairstylist ever. And so then when we started to develop it, it's more of like a psychological horror film. It's not a slasher like with 20 people being killed in the movie, but it started as a short film that we put out in 2016, and it was always my intention to turn it into a feature. And we hoped that, you know, if we had the short, it would be like asset to when we were, pitching the feature to hopeful investors. Like, here's the script, here's also a 15-minute, proof of concept. And the short did really well at festivals. And so we really thought it wasn't going to be like too hard to get the money, but it felt impossible. We spent like 5 years trying to get it financed. And finally, after going to tons of festivals and meeting so many filmmakers, out with their first film and just being like, how did you, get this first one done? It kind of seems like this catch-22 of anyone kind of in the industry with money or that's higher up that could give you an opportunity wants to see that you've already made a feature. But it's like, how do you get that first one done if no one will give you the opportunity? You just have to figure it out on your own, I've realized. And that's how so many stories I've heard over the years. So I basically like hit up the main people from the short, which are like my DP, the production designer, and Najara Townsend, the lead actress. It's like, are you guys open to trying to do this like truly independently? Like, we start with a Kickstarter that will probably only be, like a third of our budget, and then we piece it together as we go. And that was the summer of 2019, and we just decided to go for it because it's been so long. And I've always been the kind of person that I realize like time is precious, and that, how long can you wait for like this magical opportunity to come along? So we say we did it on our own, but that's with like hundreds of people donating to our Kickstarter, and slowly finding investors, like little chunks here and there, still figuring out how we're going to finance post-production as we're starting to shoot the movie, which is something I didn't realize. Like, I'm the serious planner, which I like the producing side of it. And with short films, we have the budget secured. We know we can finish the movie. I couldn't handle the idea of how do you start something you don't know that you could like actually how you're going to pay to finish it. And I think there's something to be said about when you start doing something, people see it and they believe, then they see the proof and they want to be a part of it. And that's, I feel like, why we were able to get what we needed by the end. And we shot it pretty fast. Like, we raised the money in the summer of 19, and we shot it beginning of last year in January and February, right before everything shut down. So we were in post all through COVID quarantine. And like we were talking about with Cara, I think talking to post as early as possible is good for the sake of them understanding the feeling and the vision, and of course the technical, how we get this from here to you and get it moving as fast as possible. Even had my editor on set editing together scenes to make sure they worked, like our special effects scenes specifically. I could ramble about the styles forever, but yeah, it just came from me when I tell the story, and I'll be cutting someone's hair and they're like, "What's your movie about?" And I'm like, it's about a hairstylist that kills people. Don't be scared of me. It's fine. But yeah, it's a funny story to keep telling people, but it's been very exciting.
I'm very proud of you. And it's really just the beginning of the journey for the film too, I'm sure. And again, the genre of horror films is huge. It's huge, and there's a big following for new films coming out all the time. Erin, how are you? Let's talk a little bit about the film industry in Kansas City, since you have been acquainted with the logistics of that for quite a few years now. How did you get involved, being from San Diego? How did you get involved in the film industry in Kansas City? And talk a little bit about the Women in Film organization and what it provides, and just from your experience with being president of it.
Yeah. So I'm from Kansas City originally. I went to San Diego for college and then came back. And when I first came back, people kept asking me, well, why would you come back here? We're Kansas City. We're not Los Angeles. We're not a coast for filmmaking. And I was like, I was homesick. When I left, I was like ready to get out. And then I missed it immediately, missed my family. And so I was like, well, it's a digital world now, and we can make things work. And so that was, I came home. It was a while ago now. And so it was before we had the film office back. I started to, I was just working with people. I knew some folks in Los Angeles and in plenty of other cities than Los Angeles who wanted help with editing. And because I had just in college kind of given myself like a quick tutorial basically with that independent study, I was helping people with editing while also in a marketing job. But in that marketing job, so I worked for B&B Theaters in their marketing department, and I said, I want to run a film fest. And they said, okay. They're like, go for it. And so I did for 4 years there. I ran a film fest, and it started as a student film fest because I said, I want students here to realize that they can make work here and have it shown at, a pretty major movie theater, like around the country. I basically wanted to build something that I didn't have for the next round of folks. And then it went from there because we had some folks who were interested who weren't students. And I said, okay, let's do it. And it was really fun because it was one of those things where high stress for me, but completely autonomous work. So I just loved it. And I loved gathering people and seeing new things, and then ultimately connecting people with each other. And it was during, I think it was the third year of that, a couple of filmmakers who were also part of Kansas City Women in Film and Television came and showed a couple, actually one of the winners was from Casey Wift. And they came up to me, and Cindy Rogers is actually the person who was like, hey, have you thought about joining Kansas City Women in Film and Television? And I legitimately hadn't looked too much into the film industry here, even though that's what I wanted to do. I just thought I had to work with people outside of Kansas City. And so they said, we have this organization, we want you to come join it. And I said, cool. And I went to one meetup, and they said, hey, you're new, want to be secretary? So of course I was like, they want me to be secretary, but no one wants to be secretary. And that's why they wanted me to be secretary. And I was like, cool, I'll do it. Awesome. So I was an enthusiastic secretary for 3 years. Legitimately, it was one of those things where I had tried like a 48-hour film competition here, I think that previous summer. And I felt very much like an outsider. And it's not because of anyone else. It's because I was working on projects with, my family and friends who are not in film at all. And they don't know anyone, they didn't know anyone in the film industry. And so I was just like, hey, family and friends, get together. I have an idea. Let's do this. And then I went to the showing, and it's like, I felt like a complete outsider. No one talked to me. I was like trying to start conversations with people, and it felt like I was getting boxed out again, probably totally in my head. But when Kansas City Women in Film and Television was like, come here, be a part of our board immediately, I was like, yes, I like this. I love the friendly, inviting atmosphere. Even if I would have said no, they would have been like, please join us. Like, we want you here. And it feels good to be wanted. It feels good to have people who are willing to, show you the ropes, potentially mentor you a little bit, but also collaborate with you no matter how, green you are in a situation. So that's why I really, really loved Casey Wift from Jump. Again, they are Women in Film and Media Kansas City now, so that's how you should look them up. And I stayed on because I realized that organizing folks was really, it was fun for me. Like creating opportunities for people. I've spoken as we for so long with Casey Wift. I've got all kinds of opportunities, fiscal sponsorships and screenplay contest every year, where there's a staged reading at the Kansas City Film Fest International. We've started to make connections and partnerships with other festivals and other groups, and it's just amazing. And my first year as president, I had a couple of other film groups, which I adore in Kansas City. Kansas City's got a handful of really, really awesome film groups. Again, no matter what your experience is, and if you're outside of Kansas City, it's a digital world now. Join us virtually, and then join us in person if you can make it up at any time. But I had a couple people from those groups say, you do very similar, like you do similar things to what we do. Why don't you just like fold in with us? And it gave me pause because I was like, why are we doing the same things that everyone else is doing? So I thought about it a little bit, and we worked together as a group to not do the same things that everyone else was doing. Sure, we have some of the same opportunities. We've got networking events, we've got screenings, we've got stage readings and stuff like that. But in addition to being a group for female identifying media makers, but also other identifying media makers, and also our allies, we just knew that we needed to stick around and not just be like brought into the fold with another group, because you know, we need to help people who are underrepresented in this area. I wanted to say field, in all of these fields, when it comes to media, when it comes to film, when it comes to television, you know, in front of the camera, behind the camera, we really needed that. And I also didn't want to do the exact same things as all the other groups, because it doesn't make sense to continue to reinvent the wheel or compete. We don't have a competitive, you know, bone in our collective body. Whereas I had run into other organizations and people before who were like, oh, well, we're the premier group, or we're the taste making group. And I'm like, no, we're not going to do that. We're here to support you however you need it, in whatever stage you're at. And so I think that, you know, the group has done really well at that. I wanted to streamline things when I became president. It was one of those where it was like, okay, who should be president next? And everyone looked at me. I was like, okay, I'll do it. And it was hard. It was hard to let that go, because I'm like full of so many ideas and things I want to get off the ground. In my last year with Casey Wift, I started a partnership with the Girl Scouts. And so we've started doing programming with them, which is really wonderful. And in this virtual world, it's been even better, because it's made these opportunities accessible to girls who don't have, you know, a car to get to a certain location, or, you know, they don't have to be dependent on someone else. If they have the internet, they can join us from anywhere. And so that's been really incredible to be a part of. And it was like my mission in that last year. I want a Girl Scout patch. Like, I want to have one designed specifically with Casey Wift on it, and we got it. And then this year we got a new one because of the change in name. And I was heading up the Girl Scout program again this year. And we're just getting young people excited about film and all of the possibilities around it. Because as we all know, you can do anything in the film and TV and media industries, like set design and costumes and food, and everything is available to you. And that's what I want to remind people of. So when it comes back to the film industry in Kansas City, that's our big goal, is to get young people excited, because, you know, even if you want to be a barista or a hairstylist or anything, like, you can also be part of the film industry. And so it's been something that I continue to work as much as possible to tell people about us here and get people excited, and hopefully, you know, increase excitement enough so that we can get some incentives, state incentives, and then cross over into Kansas with some of those Kansas state incentives, and then really get people excited about coming to the heart of America and joining us here with all of the wonderful people and the history and locations and everything that we have right here.
We have a great history here, that's for sure. And thank you for what you've done with the group. I don't know if any of you guys know Morgan Dameron, but I was on the board back 10 years ago or so. Morgan was still in high school, and she won the Women in Film high school. You know, she was a teenager at the time, and she had shot a little film in her backyard. And if you know Morgan, you know, she went on to get a full ride at USC, and, you know, made her feature film out there. And she was my first intern back, you know, 10 or 15 years ago. And so it's been a great foundation for young people, as you're talking about, to have a community, especially a community of women that are supportive and have resources and take them in. And I remember when Morgan called me from her first year of USC and said, I'd like to be an intern. And I'm like, oh, okay. I've never had an intern, but you're now my intern. So, it's just been something you're very proud of to continue to your own craft and also to mentor others. Misty, I would like to talk to you about a little bit that Aaron was talking about. And you first worked as a production designer before you began directing. And I'd like you to talk a little bit about how important it is to know other crafts on set, because many of us have worn a lot of hats as we've made films. So talk a little bit about your entry into writing and directing by way of production designer and how that helped you, make films after that.
Sure. So my background, and when I was in high school, I did a lot of visual arts, and I thought at first that was the direction I was going to go into. And then when I was looking at the course catalog at KU, I saw you could go into filmmaking. I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. So I already had a little bit of that background, the visual art background. And then when I was at KU, I also I had a film degree, but I took a lot of courses in set design and a lot in the theater department. So I kind of combined a lot of the two worlds on my own as a student. And I think that really helped me once I got onto a film set as a young person. And I, worked my way up doing, I started as a set dresser and then kind of worked my way up to a production designer. And I really, really enjoyed that work. I think one of the first features that I worked on was called Air the Musical. And that's how I met my husband, Jeremy. And that was a wonderful experience. And then that led to working with Kevin Wilmot on Bunker Hill. And then we did several features after that. And while I was doing the production design, I think it's super important because you get to see all the other, how the cinematographer works and how the DP relationship with the director. I mean, everyone's interconnected, but you don't really get to see all those jobs until you're actually on set and how everything is cohesive and how everyone works together. So I think especially if you want to go into directing, it's wonderful as a very young person just to get on as a PA and really just see how it all flows together.
I agree with you very much there. Cara, let me ask you one more question. I know you're going to sign off here in a little bit. You were on teaching editing this morning, were you not?
Oh, I was.
So you've been zooming all
show, people. It was.
Really?
And Zoom is a little awkward,
Yeah.
Because I couldn't
for
see
editing,
any
it
of my
probably is.
Yeah, I couldn't see any of
That's
my
true.
participants in the workshop. And we had some glitches in the beginning, but yeah, I learned, I already kind of knew this, but I learned that I could basically talk to myself about editing for hours. I've heard some good things. Anyway, yes, ma'am. What were you going to ask?
Well, what have you learned in your 20 years of being connected to storytelling? Because I know you've done some directing and, you're a previous dancer and now you're an extraordinary editor. What are some of the tips that you could give to first-time filmmakers or, it's a highly collaborative effort to make a film, whether it's a doc or horror film or, short film or whatever. What kind of tips could you give in your experience of 20 years for some of the students that are probably watching today, that are graduating from Washburn in the media department? And how do they like dip their foot into the industry and what could you give us from some of your wisdom of your experience?
This is a very big question, Sue Vickery.
I'm up for it.
This is a big one. I got it. Okay.
Okay,
Processing.
Okay. It's philosophical.
The first thing that came to mind when you were talking through your question is, I don't know if anyone here is familiar with a book called The Four Agreements. Is anyone? Yes, here we go.
One of my favorite books.
And
favorite
there you go.
books.
Okay. No, one of the let me pull up the 4 agreements. I'm going to do this right now. The 4 agreements. And this is actually, so it's the 4 agreements, a practical guide to personal freedom. And yes, we just got motivational. Okay. And I'm just going to say what the 4 agreements are. And the one that's coming to my mind the most is always do your best. And I think in life in general, but film is not different. Just giving everything all that you've got. I imagine that all the women on this panel right now are doing that and have gotten to where we are because we've done that, and we do that continually. Our best changes from day to day. Am I right? Can I get an amen on that? But like, give it your best, right? And then the other 3 agreements, which are not less important, but aren't the focus, are be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Oh my gosh, I need a
Big one.
t-shirt with that on it so that I can see that every day, because depending on what's going on in my life, that's easier, or how creatively invested I become in a project, that gets difficult, Anyway, don't make assumptions. That's another one. So anyway, the 4 agreements, everybody check it out. So yeah, I would say all of those principles, having strong values in that regard, treating other people with respect. This is a collaborative art form. Communicating. Oh my gosh, this goes so far. Just communicating. And then as far as like getting started, I've been thinking about this, just creating this workshop, because I've been at this for a while, and editing is like playing music by ear to me. And I don't think about a lot of the basics that I started with. But really, when it comes down, I was ambitious. And I think ambition, having that motivation, having drive, which I'm hearing that from everybody here today, that's just bottom line. You got to have that. And that work ethic pays off in any other area of your life that you want to pursue. So cultivating a work ethic, if you don't have it, I actually got mine at the Art Institute in the first year. It was so hard. And when things get hard, you either plug in or you withdraw. And sometimes it's a dance, but I plugged in, and that was a life-changing moment for me. So working hard, being ambitious, and then be a sponge. Like, whatever you want to know, we have the internet now. Holy crap. When I was a freshman in college, I heard of this thing called email. And I was like, sounds really cool, because like you can just think about what you want to say and send it, and it's like we have such an asset. But get on YouTube, research I don't know, what do you want to know how to do? Research it. Email, scour the internet and find people in your area who are doing what you want to do. Send them, I have a soft spot for emails when I get them. Hi, Tara, I want to know how to add it, and I'm just like, oh, I love you. When do you want to talk? Just so, be ambitious, work ethic, it all ties in. And then something I feel like I had to do when I was young is I had to build a relationship with my own creativity. And that also requires kind of building some confidence around your own creativity. I spent a lot of time making stuff that no one was ever going to see, like I'm in an elementary algebra class right now, different panel, different conversation. But something that my elementary algebra class teacher said that I just loved is she said, pretend that someone who loves you, who believes in you, is sitting next to you while you're working through these algebra problems. And I was like, I love this lady. Yes. And it's like, as you're being creative, as you're writing your thing, as you're planning out whatever it is that you want to embark on, try to like create an atmosphere of support around yourself if you can imagine it, because being creative is different than making dog biscuits or chopping carrots. Like you're you are like finding a part of yourself. It's like singing in front of people and you're not a singer, you know what I mean? It's like you're sharing something of yourself, you know, with other people. And so finding that in a nice kind of sacred, safe space, and then learning how to share that. You know, I remember as an editor when I started finding the courage to do it, I was working with an ad agency. I was 28 years old. I was very young in my mind and as a person. And I was working with probably the top ad agency in town, and I felt very young to be working with them. I didn't, I was like, you guys ever heard the saying, a small dog chasing after a fast car? I totally felt like that. These people had made Walmart commercials for like 10 years and they had all kind, you know, I felt like they were in my business because they knew what I was doing more than, you know, more than I did in a sense. And I took a risk and I started like, rather than just sort of putting the shots together, I started implementing my own creative judgment in a risky kind of like, this would be really far out and cool. Let's try this. They loved it. That's what they want, the special sauce. Like they want the Heinz 57 that was never released because it has the magic ingredient that makes everyone really happy. You know, like, so anyway, finding the relationship, building the confidence, and also building your community. Like I've found in life in general, you know, and also in creativity, they're kind of like little tribes, you know, and their personalities, and there's a lot of narcissism in creativity. And it's like not everybody plays nice, and it's not necessarily anyone's fault, but it's like you may find your tribe. Look for your tribe, you know, look for your people that, you know, you speak the language with. Like Sue and I, we have a thing, we have like a cool thing. And it's when you find your tribe, you find a sense of belonging, and it's very empowering, you know, to find people you belong with, because you can elevate each other, you can empower each other. Something that's so cool about what Erin's doing is she's bringing little tribes together, and she's like helping people find, you know, this is not an isolated art form, you know, you need people. So anyway, build your community, be respectful, communicate, ambition, work ethic, sense of humor, important in life. Okay, so that is my sermon. I hope that it was helpful.
Oh, you're such a soul sister.
You are too.
I adore you.
Me too.
Marlo. I would like you to expound on some wisdom. And what I love that you've done, and I might have already said this, is that you've created things that you saw needed to be created. Groups, organizations, putting women together and things like that. And that is something that we as women, I think, are especially gifted to do. We see something that's a need, we take action, we get it done. You know, we multitask, and we're brilliant. Let's just put it that way. We're brilliant. So I would like you to share with us as a group and anyone that's listening, what you've gleaned for some wisdom in your creative adventure. And you've got lots of years left to go and things to learn and expand. Talk to us a little bit about what you've learned that has been beneficial to the outcome, and just you personally.
Well, I love what Cara said about being a sponge, and I think that is so important. I think being open and curious about the world around you. I think when I started film school, you would see the same short film done again and again, and it was because of just a lack of life experience. So I think as we age, we tell so much better stories just because we've had exposure to different philosophies and ideas and life events that we're able to speak to the world around us in a unique way. So I always, when people say, oh, am I too old to get into film? You are not. You have the best perspective and thing to bring to the table because you have that life experience to draw from. So when young people come up to me and say, oh, I'm just all about film, I'm like, you know what, go live your life. And then you'll have something to say that you'll put inside your films. Because I find those are the movies that speak to me as an audience member. Like if there's something, whether it's a comedy, it can be a drama, whatever, that sci-fi, if it comes from the heart and there's something that artist wanted to communicate, it resonates with me. If it's empty and I feel like, yeah, it's just pastiche, it's just drawing upon other people's creations, it's not as something that's going to stay with me beyond that 2 hours that I'm watching the film. So that's the thing that I definitely try to take with me, is just like, what is it that I want to say as a human being about what I'm seeing around me, and what is unique about my life experience, where I've been and what I've been exposed to, that I can see, reveal something in a different way than no one has done before. And if it's just more of the same, let's go on and broaden our horizons and just experience life and do something that opens us to more experiences. I recently saw The Stylist and I loved that film. And it was just so great because I felt like you were a stylist and you were bringing this unique perspective to horror that I had not seen before. And it was such a great experience to have like this feminist horror film that came from a place of authenticity. Like, it didn't feel like, here's this white male telling this story about some girl that he's just imagining this is what it'd be like to be a stylist. It felt authentic. And I think us as creators, and whether we write our own material, if we're just directing someone else's material, coming from a place where there's something to communicate about what we're experiencing, all the better. So I love that, with a sponge and curiosity and just being open to everything around us and not just our medium.
Yeah, and it's your fingerprint. It's your legacy. Everything that we put out there has life beyond us, like for all of time in the digital world. And so everything, it matters. It matters what our voice is, and it matters what we put into the world, whether it's a child or a film or a painting or whatever. We matter. It's to humanity, the bigger picture. So, Jill, tell us a little bit about, give us some wisdom about your experience as a creative, which is a unique, gift in the world. And, please let us know what we all can glean from you, just as a filmmaker, as a female creative, and some of the lessons that you've learned along the way.
Well, thank you, Marl, for what you said about the film. That's a big reason why I wanted to do it, was it felt like something I could say that I understood in a very personal way. And I completely, to reiterate, that is something I've heard through, advice from multiple filmmakers, but like, whatever it is you're trying to bring to life, the story, whatever it may be, if it doesn't mean almost like everything to you, you'll realize it soon. And everyone here knows how hard it is to bring something to life, and how much passion and blood, sweat, and tears it takes. So if your heart's not really in it, it'll expose itself, and you'll lose, I think, the motive, the drive to finish something. One of the biggest things I feel like is something I learned through finally making the feature, is, and something that I got when I approached like my first short film, I had no idea what directing or producing really was yet. And I think the biggest thing is like to not be afraid of what you don't know, and to not be afraid to start to do something, even if you don't know every step of how it works yet. Because there's no way, when you first start and look at like a project, from afar, it's very intimidating. And, like, one person isn't expected to know how to do every single one of those things to create a film or a short or a music video or whatever. I think that's what keeps a lot of people from trying stuff, is the bigger picture looks horrifying, and it's so much to figure out. And you're like, how could anyone figure all this out? And it's really just starting it, and you figure it out as you go, because there's no other way to figure it all out before you start, which I think is something that keeps us from trying big, scary things like maybe making a film. Because that's definitely what kept me from the feature, was this partially the money thing of how will we finance it, but also there's so many things I had never done before, from a short to a feature, where most of my shorts are maybe 2 to 4 actors in a room at most, versus multiple scenes with tons of extras and just lots of stuff I had never dealt with before, and realizing, yeah, you just have to do it to understand it. And it's not as scary as it seems before you do it, because there's this huge team figuring it out with you. And that's my favorite part about filmmaking, like you're saying, the team aspect. And that, I know there are some of the filmmakers that can do a lot themselves. Like Robert Rodriguez is kind of famous for starting his career, and he shoots and edits and made his first feature for like $5,000. And so some people can do a lot of it and it saves a lot of money, but to understand that it's not, you don't have to know how to do all of those things or even half of it or barely any of it. It's just like starting to put together that team together, your tribe, like you said. And I feel like the more stuff you make, the more you learn who you can work with. That's another thing, is you don't really know about personalities, how you're going to work with someone until you do. While it's like a professional world, it's also since it's very personal. So I feel like it's a very weird, especially when you're making passion projects and, you're working with people for 12 hours a day, you become so close, and it's hard to find your people, but it's just, I think about finding people with similar goals and, creatively that understand your vision and whatnot. But it can take a while. I know through making many short films is kind of slowly how I've found the people. And I also learned about myself, how to collaborate, better through the years, because on my first short film, I'm sorry to everyone that worked with me on that one, because I was learning how to be, I'm probably still a little bit of a pain, but I think I'm much more gracious. It's like in the beginning as a director, especially, if you have such a specific vision, you can feel like other ideas are somehow changing that. But once I got over that fear, I realized everyone involved is here to try to make whatever this is the best it can be. And once you realize like no one here is on the other side of it, so there's no reason to feel that pushback or be scared. And through that, I've learned all those people, everyone has their position for a reason and they know what they're doing. And I could ramble forever, but I think it's really not about like, it's okay to be afraid and not know what you're going to do, but then just to still be brave enough to try it.
If I could add
Yeah,
on to that, I love
Please.
how empowering that is, for people, because, and that's, you said it so wonderfully, because there are a lot of people that are like, well, I don't know how to, but it's like, if you have the vision and in your heart, if you believe it, as with a lot of things in life, I have a friend, for instance, who is someone I really, really, really admire. And no matter how long we don't talk to each other, it feels like we just talk to each other. There was one summer where we took a walk outside together, and this woman, amazing woman, had started packing her house up into boxes. And I'm like, well, so what are you doing? She's like, I don't know, but I'm moving. And I'm like, okay, you're moving? And she's like, yeah, when are you moving? I don't know. Where are you gonna? I don't know. I'm moving though, and it's like following your intuition and knowing it well enough and trusting that if you put one foot in front of the other, that you're gonna get somewhere. And then if I could add on to it's okay if you don't know, it's okay if you don't know every step of everything. I totally agree. However, please don't be arrogant while you do it. Like,
Yes.
I have worked with just, oh God, it's the best people I love to work with are the ones that are like, and I'm the same. It's like, hey, just so you know, I don't know what I'm doing. Do you know how to do this? Like, can you show, like, this vision is important to me, but like, I don't know how to get to there. Can you help me? And I'm like, I love you. I'll help you,
Yeah.
It's when people come in and they're like, I don't know how to do this, and I'm going to be a boss about it. They're just like impossible to work with, because it's like, how am I going to help you? And then
Yeah.
what you said, Jill, about like having a vision and being protective of the vision, that's so true. And I have worked with directors through those moments, because when you have something that you have knitted together and it's so precious to you, and I feel like the director is the guardian of the creative, and that's key, that they carry that vision through, especially when it's like you're not just the director on set, but it's your movie, like you need to be the guardian of and the protector of the creative vision. but it's also good to surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, that don't that see other angles, because like, how when you look in the mirror, you see your face backwards and it's kind of just the way things are. It's like when other people have that perspective, they're not seeing your face backwards. Like like they can help you manifest the vision in a way that's more complete. You know what I mean? And anyway, I got inspired by what you said, so I added on.
Definitely part of my trick is that when you don't know, you surround yourself by people who know what they're doing, like that are way more experienced than you, which is what I've always done, and learn from them. And then like, even with, protecting your vision, I feel like you should always be willing to like see what someone else has to show you, even if it is the opposite idea, because until you see it, you don't know it might be your favorite thing in the world. And then you can always go back to the plan. But yeah, it's always in fact, I'm always working with people I'm so like intimidated by, because I think I'm like a fraud in comparison, or amateur. That's been my trick the whole time.
I suppose most of us feel that we, all humans maybe, and all creatives feel like they are not frauds, but that they're have fear sort of driving a lot of the things that they do. And most of my films, in the middle of the night, I'd wake up and I go, nope. I'm hoping that it'll disappear, from the face of the earth. And of course it doesn't, because again, it's like having a child. You put it out there and it's already got life, and you just sort of nurture it all the way to the end. And once you get that formula, then it feels a little safer, because somehow it works out, And I also liken making a film to running a small business, because all the little decisions you make, you're really building it one baby decision at a time. And it's truly like running a small business. So it really helps to have left brain, right brain sort of skills, where you can, work as producers do, which is making a lot of business decisions, and then the creative aspect as well. Erin. I'd like to talk a little bit about, we're all amazing creative women sitting here, and I get asked the question a lot about being a minority, which I don't consider myself a minority, as far as experiences I've had in my filming versus men. And it's not a question I ask really, because it doesn't apply to me. Mm-hmm. If I've got a vision, if I'm going somewhere, I've got something to get done, it doesn't matter who shows up. My assertive skills, my communication skills are what get me to the end. So talk to me a little bit about heading up the Kansas City Women in Film and TV group for 6 years, or working with them for 6 years, about the culture for women, particularly in the Midwest. And then, what are some things to know about what media calls the sort of the differences in gender? Yeah,
so the good news is, from my experience, and we've all had different experiences, but from my experience, if you're going after trying to work with people that really believe in your vision, and you're considering it a collaboration at the same time, then you're really trying to work on getting, the collaboration piece is just keeping that in mind, that yes, you have this vision, but you also want to work with people who can really get behind it and want to either, not necessarily make exactly what you're wanting to make, but want to make it the best thing possible. At least in my experience, again, it has been collecting those kinds of people who kind of have your back no matter what. Then the experience on set tends to be a lot better. And not everyone's for everyone. I've worked with people before where it's okay, I'm okay not working with them again. They're a genius, and there are plenty of other people to work with. There's in my head, there's no competition anywhere, because there are so many talented folks. I'm not nervous that if I choose not to work with someone ever again, even in the Midwest, where it's a smaller production community right now. We're getting much bigger, but it's not like I'm going to be for want. It's better better for me mentally and emotionally, and probably everyone else too, if I work with people that, you know, I really jive with, I guess, as you could say. I do know that when I first joined the organization, and again, it's been 7 years now almost, there was a lot of talk within the organization, and outside of the organization of, you know, how am I going to get a chance if the good old boys aren't going to give me a chance? Like, it's a little bit of a, like a, you know, a boys club is what I heard quite a bit of. And my big thing was always, well, just make it. Make something. Maybe it's not it. Maybe it's not the thing that you're like, yes, this needs to be made. And how do I, you know, get connected with these people if they're just always going to work with their friends or always work with the people that they've always worked with? You know, at some point, you know, things are going to change. You're not going to be able to get everyone that you want on a project, or you're going to want to like expand your horizons. So I kind of changed my perspective a bit on that, whereas other people were like feeling really stuck because they didn't feel like they could break into the industry, when really just make something, show up to an event. Yes, I know we're still virtual right now, and there are plenty of opportunities there where it's like, okay, even if people they have Zoom fatigue and not everyone wants to show up to these online networking events, you're still going to get a couple people, and it's a more intimate, like, collective, and you're able to talk more about your ideas, and people are able to get a better idea of not only what you do, but like just your passions when you're able to talk in like this small group, kind of like this. I know towards the end of my time with Casey Whiff, we were doing a lot of virtual events, and it was like 4 to 7 people showed up, and those were always like really awesome opportunities to connect. Whereas if it was an in-person thing where I was a brand new person to this group, I don't think I would have accepted an invitation where it was only going to be 4 to 7 people. I would have been super like intimidated by that. So, you know, we've had our fair share of, you know, people playing favorites that I've seen, and people being upset of not being able to break in or whatever it is to the industry. But a lot of it's a mindset thing. Also, I feel that because we're a smaller community, we're a more tight-knit community. So if someone's going to be a jerk, if someone's going to be sexist or homophobic or racist, we all we know, like, because, you know, we're all kind of connected in that way. And then it's like, okay, this person, I've worked with them before and they are this way. It's like, okay, then you can make the choice whether you want to then work with that person or not. Which is also, it's kind of nice to know beforehand, not to like warn other people necessarily, but so that you then don't have to get into an uncomfortable position yourself, if at all possible. And again, I know from my experience, and we've all been on different sets, whether you're, you know, a PA or you're running the whole thing. I have not personally had an experience, and I've spoken to very few people, though I can always meet more people and be connected with more people, but I've spoken to very few people who have been like, ooh, I had a really, really crappy experience on a set in the Midwest. And I love that. Though I'd also love to hear how other people are as well. And with Casey Whiff also, I'm sorry, Women in Film and Media. I want to make sure everyone knows that that's the change. I think it's great to have that kind of collective support, where it's like, even if you don't come to an event for 6 months or don't talk for 6 months, you know, you can jump back in, and it's like, we're here to support each other. Whether it's learning something new or connecting you with a new project or funds, or, you know, having the contests that we have and the awards that we have, recognizing people who are doing great things, and also showing off work from all of these people. We have a really robust YouTube channel that has a lot of followers, but like, people are wanting these new perspectives. And I'm not discounting white men, maybe a little, because those are the perspectives we've been seeing for so long. And I'm really excited that people are really coming together and seeing that, you jump in, you have an idea, great, jump in, you'll figure out the how later. I think that's kind of been a little bit of a theme here, a thread that we've kind of talked about. But you do have these great groups where it's not necessarily a shortcut, but kind of, where it's like, okay, we've got this collective of people. We've got, member directory and stuff like that, where you can come and find folks that are less represented and have great ideas and are great collaborators. And you just got to make that decision to do it, to go online and look us up, or, to go to the event. But yeah, and if we have time, I'd love to hear other people's experiences.
Yeah, I'd like to share my experience. Aaron, thank you so much for everything that you just shared. I think I'd like to share my early start in the Midwest. And it's so vitally important. I didn't know what I was doing fresh out of film school. I made a little project and I didn't know anybody. And so I went at the time, KC Women, and what is it now? It's not quite KC West. Can you remind me?
It is WIFM. It's Women in Film and Media, Kansas City.
Okay. So when I was just starting out, they weren't in town. So I went to, I think it's the local KC, or is it IFC in Kansas City. And Joe Hayen was the president at the time. And being in those, I was so scared. I was young, and I was probably one of maybe the only very few females in that room. It was so scary to show my project there, but I just did it. But through that, I met so many supportive filmmakers, and also people that became crew members that I've worked with since then. And it was so important. And they were, at that time, they were all men, but they were so supportive. And so what I like now is that there are more women in the local area in KC WIFT. I'm sorry, I'm still referring to the old name. It's just so wonderful seeing more females, and maybe it's being a little less scary for females to, throw their name into the ring for different things as far as filmmaking. So I just have to say, from my personal experience, it was scary, but I've had a very, very good and supportive experience with local people here in town. So.
Well, while you're sharing out, this is good.
Okay, good.
Just talking about how we got started. So, okay, so I graduated from the Kansas City Art Institute in 2003, and I was really kind of lost when I graduated from the Art Institute, because it's not like nursing school where it's like, oh, hey, you're going to do this thing, It's very like you're creating it, and then there is a breaking into the industry type of aspect to it. Breaking into the industry. I don't know if it is now what it felt like it was then, but I ended up meeting a woman named Terry Rogers, and she owned a company called Take Two, and I felt like Take Two was just like top of the line as far as video production in Kansas City in 2005, and probably before I knew it, they were. And this is just an important message about how she literally gave me my first job, and she has passed on from cancer, and I love talking about her in this moment because she was huge for me. But she was a badass. Oh my God, this woman. She bought the, and talk about before women were doing anything, she bought the video department of what used to be Payless Cashways, and she turned it into this video production, entity. And anyway, when she hired me, I was the only female on post-production. And it was just, she was a role model for me. She was smart, ambitious, intimidating people. Oh my gosh, intimidating. She was like, I believe that women have the potential to be all the greatest things about women and all the greatest things about men at the same time. I love men, don't get me wrong. I love men. But I mean, there's like a sensitivity, I believe that female editors, in particular, bring an emotional intelligence to their work that is harder to find among, it's not as innate maybe. and there's so many just innate things that women bring to the table as artists, I believe. Um, and I also think that having some estrogen to balance all the testosterone in the room is a key thing. We all need balance. You know what I mean? I've been that estrogen. Anyway, so Terry Rogers gave me my start. So, and I would love for us all to hold hands and sing Kumbaya and say that we haven't experienced any difficult things, by being women and being outnumbered in a male dominated industry. I have, I want to bring that to the table right now. So, I loved the guys I worked with at Take Two, but I gotta say, when I started, they were like, who in the beat is this? We don't know what her credentials are. She's fresh out of art school. What is Terry smoking? Right. And it took me years to earn the respect of my male colleagues. And they had to see me, they had to see that I had skills. They had to see that I could do it. And I feel like I probably had to work twice as hard as a male editor would have in order to get that kind of respect. I have it now, but I worked for it, And so I also, however, I think things are different now, and I'm glad that they're different. I'm seeing more young women in film classes where and they're just like nationally where I think women are stepping forward more, are expressing, telling their stories of being, sexually harassed by so and so. We're really, anyway. So like, I also love what you said, Sue, in terms of, I don't see myself as a woman on this male team unless they make me feel like a woman on this male team. I see myself as a collaborator, and it's my ideas, it's my ambition, it's the time I put in, whatever. And it's, that's what helps us to make things. And that is not gender specific. It's about tribes also. It's like, I have, there are post-production houses that I work at, and some of them just have more of a male culture. And that's just kind of the way it is, but some of them have a different culture. So it's about, the tribe thing. But I guess, I just wanted to share a little bit of
Freeze up.
a little bit of my struggle and a little bit of how, but you can do it. You can do it. I think the water is a lot warmer than it used to be in terms of like, jump in, the water is great. Like it's a good time. It's a good time, but you can do it. It doesn't matter, Signing off. Is Sue frozen? Our moderator froze.
I think so.
Okay.
I have something small to add to that, about like being a woman. And I often in interviews and stuff will get asked like what the difference is. Oh, we lost her completely. The differences of, trying to get a film made as a woman. And I don't know how to answer that in the sense of like, I don't know what it's like to try to get a film made as someone else. Like, I like to think that's not why it was so hard, but I don't know that, the difference, how, I don't know. I feel like the only way we can see that clearly not as many women are getting their films made is by what comes out versus like my own experience. No one's ever said to me like, we're not going to work with her because she's a girl or, whatever that I know of.
All right. Well, now I'm back. I'm sorry. Must have been
Welcome back, Sue. You didn't miss much. I was like, oh, our moderator. There was like a great awkward silence.
What?
And then I was like, oh, Sue froze.
I was frozen. I thought you were frozen. Oh, well. Sorry about that.
We're back now.
You were doing such a beautiful job too.
It's okay. We rolled a little. Jill said a few things, so we're ready for you to. If you want to do your moderator thing, your Oprah Winfrey
I'm ready.
thing, or we can whatever.
I am ready. I do want to say though, regarding how amazing we all are. just to be here. I've moderated a lot of panels and been at Sundance and Cannes, and honestly, this is probably the best panel I've put together. It's you girls are amazing, great wisdom. So hopefully we've got a wonderful. And Matt, I saw Matt just said wow on there, so yay. And by the way, after raising 2 daughters, I went to film school at 48. So I had already raised 2 children, and I said to myself, who do I want to be the second half of my life? And within an hour, I was signed up to film school in New York City. So the amazing thing is that at all decades of our life, we get to create and recreate as long as we can. And so we are extraordinary beings. I would like to go around the room and have anyone share with us what's next. What's your current project? What's a project coming up? I know a lot of you doing film festivals and you're in the midst of a current film, but talk a little bit about future vision. Let's start with Marlo.
One of the fun things that came out of the Wishing Bench film, being such a neighborhood-driven project, it touched upon some neighborhood history of a community called La Yarda. So it's a Mexican-American community from the 1920s to the 50s that was founded by the railroad that created housing to house Mexican immigrant workers. And this is really not just the story of Lawrence, Kansas, but the story of many communities in Kansas that have Mexican-American communities along the railroad and even nationally. So I have a documentary. We just recently got a grant from Humanities Kansas to do a documentary about that subject in East Lawrence. So I'm really excited about that. Beyond that, I'm sort of, really inspired about public art and filmmaking in general, and finding a way that perhaps to build like a nonprofit model for especially short film production. I think sometimes films, like we're looking at selling our films when we're done, but I'm looking at grant funding and ways to funnel things through a more formal nonprofit organizational format and really making use of public funding. So those are sort of ideas in my mind for what next, but I don't have anything formal.
And it's an extension of your personality and an extension of who you are as a woman is what your choices are. I can tell just by listening to you. So congratulations on the successes that you've had, and thanks for sharing the wisdom that you have with us today. And I hope to meet in person. I'm going to drive over to Lawrence so I can sit at the wishing bench.
I would love that, and I'm so interested.
You inspired me.
If you do get a wishing bench in Kansas City, I am there. I'll be the first one making a wish.
Yeah, you inspired me, and that's my cup of tea. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you,
Jill. Did you move outside?
Yes. I
Good
moved
girl.
outside for less distractions in the background.
Gotcha. You are in the midst of film festivals, and that could take you some time to go through that journey. Do you have anything on the back burner, on the middle burner, on the front burner that you have next for you?
Yeah, we're kind of in a weird process or stage of the film because of COVID, like all the festivals are kind of changing their rules in a sense. Like we're already streaming on our distributor's app since March 1st, Arrow. But festivals are being open to showing us still. And normally that would, disqualify you completely from so many festivals. But we're hoping to get more, in-person screenings this summer. So much of my life is still consumed with the producer side of the stylist. But I've been excited to have like room in my brain again to start writing a script I've been thinking on and outlining for a couple of years. That's actually not like genre at all. It's a straight up indie drama. So I'm excited to like establish that I don't want to just do horror because that's all anyone thinks I want to do, which I understand. But I'm also attached to direct a couple of scripts written by other writers that are horror, thriller. I feel like nothing I can really talk about in detail, but I'm excited and hope to make another movie soon or someday.
Yeah, you talk quite a bit about the funding and pieces, and I do find with filmmakers especially, they get stuck there.
Yeah.
Where's the money? Show me the money, and it's different for everybody, but it has a lot to do with our beliefs about money and who's got it and when's it going to be in my checking account. So that's, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn there. There's a lot of lessons there. There's a lot of beliefs that we hold about money, that keeps us from, receiving it, or so it really is a topic. It's a topic of its own, is where's the financing.
Yeah.
And takes us from the level of low budget film to a healthy budget that we can actually learn and grow from. So it's a big conversation, and congratulations on the stylist, and that I'm anxious to see what your next project is. Like you, I like learning new things, so I'm like, okay, what genre have I not worked in yet? Animation is one, so I'm like, okay, maybe I'll figure that out, because I love the space of being in, I don't know how to do it, and how can I figure out how to do it. It's just something that you learn, that you grow as a human being. And congratulations on your success. I'm super proud of you, and I am going to make a hair appointment with you. I'm going to come up and get some color or something. So Missy, how about you? And what's in your future for projects? And I'm assuming you and Jeremy have worked together. And what's on the palette for you?
Yeah, so Jeremy and I are pretty much finishing up right now our festival run with our episodic series, which is called The Square Root. And then we're in development on creating a longer episodic piece, and also a feature film. So that's where we are right now, especially with COVID. It's a great time to kind of write and also develop, put things in the pipeline. So that's where we are at right now.
And you have a young family, right?
Yes.
So you've got that. So it's a great space that you're in, and my reminder would be to breathe, and enjoy every second of it. I mean, between the two of you, you're never going to not be creating. I'm assuming it's just the DNA of who you both are. So what an amazing opportunity for you.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations. Erin, what about you? Where are you headed? I know that you've left one thing to have some new opportunities, and last I talked to you, you were thinking about moving to San Diego. So what's going on with you, girl?
So not San Diego, but Los Angeles will be.
Oh, there's a but in there.
Yes.
Oh.
So we are moving to Los Angeles in the next couple of months. My husband's already started his job remotely because COVID. And so that's been interesting. We actually we're celebrating that we sold our house off market the other day. So that's really exciting. There's been a lot of champagne the last couple of days. But also, I was like, it's time for me to step back from women in film, so that, someone else can come up and like have all their ideas, and I found that I wasn't creating as much as I'd like to. Like I said, it was kind of like an organizational hiatus. And I think I only made 2 shorts in the 6 years that I was on the board. Cause it's, I needed to open up my capacity a bit. My energy was a little depleted. So I took some time away, this last year. Really, I was like, I'm about to put up some boundaries, and then I didn't have to do a whole lot of that because the boundaries were put up for me. But I'm also learning more about my capacity, and I've been writing, and I think it's turning into what could be a one-woman show or episodic. And I'm really excited because I have no idea what's going to happen, and neither of those are things that I've done before. So that's what I'm working on. But I've already started talking to some folks, including Morgan, out in Los Angeles, and I'm really excited about just connecting. I had someone ask me the other day, well, what's next for you? And, I can do my work from basically anywhere. And I said, I'm just excited for the next, 6 to 8 months, just getting to know folks out in LA, and just meeting them, not for the intent of, okay, who can I work with, but also kind of, and trying to make those connections between people in different industries, just to make everyone's lives easier. I don't know. That's just one of my favorite things. And I always have Kansas City on my mind. So I've already been talking with Steph, the film commissioner, and I'm like, okay, whatever I can do to continue to help bolster Kansas City film, and again, start getting incentives for Missouri and Kansas to get more folks out here, I am down to do. So If y'all want to get coffee or anything when you're out there, or if you want any connections out there, let me know. That is my big mission. So
What part of LA will you guys land in?
His job's downtown, so we're trying to find a
Okay.
place that is not. We're not going to be downtown, but we're
Right.
looking in a couple of different neighborhoods just west. So we'll see where. I don't know. Good question.
Yeah.
That's the next
Okay.
thing I probably need to do is figure that one out.
So 2 months, in 2 months, you're moving there?
Mm-hmm.
About 2 months.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's certainly lots of great organizations to belong to there, Women in Film and Alliance of Women Directors, great resources there, and lots of powerful women doing amazing things. So it'll be fun to watch, just see what you do next. Cara, what about you? You're going back to school. What are you working on, girl?
Yeah, so a lot of my energy right now has been going into mentoring my two assistant editors. And you can learn the craft and you can go to school to do it and all that other stuff, but if you're going to do it professionally, there's nothing like doing it. And so we have done, like, during my editing workshop, I shared an album feature, which was a series of music videos that were done for an artist on Tech Nine's label Strange Music, for Mackenzie Nicole. She's the daughter of one of the partners on the label. And we, like, last fall, it wasn't last fall, how time has just gotten weird since the pandemic. Like, I don't even know what happened last year or what year. Anyway, it was a couple of falls ago. We'll just say it that way. We did, like, the three of us did, I feel like it was about 12 music videos in a month. And it was so much and so fast. And, working through that together and nurturing them as creatives, we had a really interesting, like, I had to engineer a car accident basically with not totally enough footage, but they had shot this incredible, like, scene after the car accident that I needed to get us to, and just working through, like, the editorial challenge of that and how do you approach that. And so working with my assistant editor Caleb on that. And then also we've done a couple of really giant jobs that I could have never done on my own together. But just, like, I don't have children besides my two rabbits and my cat, and so I'm bringing them up, and I'm really trying to mentor and teach them and pass along, a lot of the things that I've learned, because there's a lot that goes into working with clients. We're talking a lot about our own creative projects and how fun they are and, like, how much freedom we have, but, like, people, like, it's totally different when you're working with a client, with a deadline that's got an agenda and, and is nervous and, how to manage that whole thing. So anyway, I'm investing in them right now. So
Nice.
yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I have one final question for everybody. And it is a bigger question, really. And feel free to, like, take it all over the map you'd like to take it to. But what on your wish list, speaking of the wishing bench, or your bucket list, is dominantly sitting there for you to accomplish in this lifetime? Because as we've said, we're here today and we've got X amount of days. And it can be creative, it cannot be creative, but what is on, as it's speaking amongst women, what's on your bucket list or wish list that you must see into your reality in this lifetime? Maybe hit up your top one for me. Yeah, I like watching your expressions while I ask these questions. And I'm going to start with Misty. So what's high on your bucket list where, it could be like, mine would be a million zillion long, but something wild and out of the ordinary. What would you like to see become into your reality in this lifetime? And make it bold and brave.
Make it bold and brave. This is so
Mhm.
interesting. It's hard to think outside of film what that would be, you know?
It can be film, just it can be wild and bold and,
Sure. One thing that has always been on my dream list as far as making films, I really want to create a feature-length comedy, and that's super, super hard. I come from a dramatic writer's point of view, but I love comedy, and so that would be my dream to create, and it's something along the lines, kind of influenced by Lucille Ball and I Love Lucy. That so that's my bucket list, I think, for as far as being a filmmaker.
so you're predicting your future basically is what we're doing. So then when the words come out, then you've sort of given it credence to show up. So what we're going to know about you is that a feature comedy film is in your future. Is that the correct way to say that?
I think so. Someday,
Okay.
yes, that would be my dream for sure.
Yeah. And it's not going to be that hard. It'll come in and at the perfect timing when you're ready for it. So I'll watch for that. You don't have any titles yet or anything, any sort of
I don't have any titles.
Okay.
Everything right now that we're kind of working on is either science fiction or drama, which I absolutely love too, but I really want to do a comedy at some point.
You want to cross over. Okay, excellent. Erin, what about you?
My big goal dream is to build a sustainable production house in Kansas City. Well, maybe not in the city limits, but somewhere nearby.
Really?
I've been dreaming about it since I visited the film office, like the film commission in London. I went in college. I love it. And the sustainability piece is newer, but I'm really excited about it. Like the most eco-friendly that you can find and all that jazz. And then really reinvest some of the money that's made off of running that facility back into areas of Kansas City that are neglected, and really just bolster our community as much as possible. So yeah, and there's all kinds of details with that. And if anyone wants to talk about it with me one day, I could go on and on, but that is really on my mind.
I'd like to see it in writing sometime.
Okay.
So when you put together a summary, send it to me.
Okay. I have not yet written it down, so I think thank you for that challenge.
I'll give you an assignment. Marlo, how about you? What's on your wishing bench list?
I have so many things, it's hard to choose, but I think my kids are older. They're high school age right now. And so I'm starting to think about, what the next stage could be like. I love the idea of doing a little bit more writing. Like I, have always put them top burner. And so my writing is always the last thing that gets done, maybe 3 or 4 in the morning. So the idea of me writing in the daytime sounds totally heavenly. I have one project that I've been trying to conceptualize. I wrote a feature-length play with my husband, and it's kind of like a his and hers type thing where it's a relationship story where you see the female point of view and the male point of view, and the subject is miscarriage. And it's one of those topics that isn't always discussed. And this really kind of puts it right there on the spotlight, from both the husband and wife's point of view. So we wrote it as a play, but I cannot get over the idea of doing it as a film. And so as I've been watching these National Theater at Home things, and even this recent Romeo and Juliet that was just released on PBS, they filmed it during COVID, but for film. So instead of just doing archival, we're filming a play, they conceptualized it thinking of camera and placement, but embracing the onstage theater. So some kind of weird hybrid between play and film is, something that is kind of on my bucket list.
Does that story have a title yet?
Pica. So pica is when you eat something. So sometimes in pregnancy, you might be compelled to eat dirt or ice cubes or different things that may not always think of that are necessary for your body, but you're missing something in your nutrition and getting it from some other source. So that's sort of the title, and it has some metaphorical connections to it.
So you are really a heart-based creative.
Yeah,
everything you say, I can really feel it comes out of the center of your soul.
Yes, try to as much as possible. I think just speaking to things that make you feel, whether whether it's comedic or dramatic or, fantasy, it's something that gives you a feeling or emotion from it is what compels me as a viewer too.
Very, very authentic. Jill, what about you? What's high on your must-do list in this lifetime? What are you passionate about?
Like everyone else, I feel like that's hard, and I go right away to like a film project. I think is like it's like more important than anything in life at this point. Not totally, but I think it's really that a project I mentioned about like what I want to do next. But I've done horror and thriller for so long, and only that I'm really excited I really want to make like a really raw emotional drama, like in the vein of like something like Moonlight or the Florida Project, that style of tone. And I've always been an activist and ally for like all sex work, down to like exotic dancers and all of that world. And the film is about an exotic dancer, and I have all these goals to work towards breaking down the stigma around that world and doing more documentary stuff in that world as well. So it's kind of like just the first step to this whole passion I want to bring more into my work and talk about more.
Thank you. Cara, you have your baby in your lap there.
I do. I have my spirit animal. She's ready to help me answer this question. So that question is so big, Sue Vickery. I love that you asked it. You're a dreamer, and I feel like you're always encouraging people to see the bigger picture, when it's so easy to be kind of down on the ground, from day to day, like doing the next thing. I did this really helpful reading this last year. It's in human design, and my human design is kind of like astrology, in terms of, you are a type of thing and here's how to learn about yourself. I am an emotional generator, everyone, an emotional generator. And of course I read that and I was like, well, exactly, but one of my things is to respond. That is my sort of how do I say it? The choreography for me in life is to respond. And in a creative setting, I work best collaborating with other people. And so like, I don't as much have like, I have to make this film. My door is open to the people that come to my door that need me to help them to manifest their thing. And a lot of my heart in that is helping people. I am a heart person, like you were mentioning, that helping people, and then also mentoring. That's really a passion of mine, and I think it's so important. It lights me up, and I love watching when something I said helps somebody. Or so anyway, I guess like if I could give a metaphor for it, I'm kind of like a person that walks outside during a lightning storm on purpose, like I'm waiting for that next thing to come, or the next director to come, or the next, I don't know. I'm open. That's my answer.
I've also had human design reading done, and I'm also a generator. So that probably explains why we're so connected. All right, you guys, we have less than 5 minutes left. I want to go around the room one last time. Who thought we could have talked 2 hours? But
Sue, real quick.
Oh, yes.
Maria
yes.
and I have something we'd like to talk to you
Okay.
about. Maria, are you there?
Hi, Maria.
I'll let you take it away, Maria.
All right.
Hello. I have been here, fly on the wall, if you wish, the entire time. For those of you who don't know who I am the chair of the mass media department at Washburn University. I have been the chair for 3 or 4 years, but I do research on women politicians from non-Western nations. The accent is in fact from Bulgaria, and the fall of communism inspired me to pursue journalism. And I had a grandmother who was one of the first, in fact, dentists in the 50s, when this didn't exist, when women weren't dentists at all. So listening to you, I just wanted to let you know, just listening to you today was just a real treat. You're creative, resourceful, wise, brave. In short, you're amazing. I wanted to let you know that you are an inspiration to this new generation of young filmmakers. And I wanted to thank you for that. But also, Sue, I wanted to take this opportunity to present you with the Lifetime Achievement Award
Oh my
in Mass
God.
Media.
That's not right.
It is
I'm already feeling
absolutely-
emotional. Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
This is great.
Absolutely
Oh, my
right.
Lord.
And this
Oh.
award is reserved for non-alumni of the mass media department, yet you're alumni of Washburn University, who have an exemplary professional career. Sue, you're an embodiment of what this award stands for.
I'm looking
Which
at
you
Matt's
know-
face.
Noteworthy success in
Mm.
your profession, your significant contributions in service, and your impactful
Wow.
philanthropic endeavors. We thought that it's only befitting to present you with this award
my
today. However, we hope to be able to bring you to campus in the fall when things are a little bit more new normal, and present it to you in person, get you to meet the rest of the mass media team, and certainly interface with the students. So again, it's been my honor to listen to you all. And so it's been my honor to present you with the Lifetime Achievement Award in Mass Media. Congratulations.
That's very kind. And can I bring all my girls with me when I come to speak? We can all come together. That would be
Absolutely.
powerful. Wouldn't that be powerful? We should do a panel there. Oh, my Lord.
Absolutely.
That'd be great.
Anytime.
Wouldn't that be fun? Honestly, girls, this is the most extraordinary. I didn't think we could talk for 2 hours. Most extraordinary panel I've ever sat on, and I have been on a lot of them. So you really opened up your hearts, and you spoke the feminine language. So I thank you for that, because honestly, you made my day. So
Well, I was not a
Congratulations, Sue. That award is everything that Maria said is you, and you deserve this award so much. Congratulations. You deserve 10 awards like that. You're an inspiration.
oh, you girls.
Thanks, Maria.
All right.
Thank you for making
Thank
Sue
you,
feel
Maria.
so special.
Oh,
Yeah.
very kind.
My
Very,
honor, as
very
I
kind.
said, you're amazing. This has been such a treat indeed. And I'm glad we're recording it, because I want this to be seen by over and over and over and over by all of our students, and not just mass media students, I think, because a lot of what you talked about translates across many other creative fields as well.
Yeah, I think I handpicked each one of these ladies